IZATIONAL Structure of Chapter -2 The Government of India. 2.1. President. The executive power of the Union formally vests in the President and may be exercised by him either directly or through officers subordinate to him, in accordance with the Constitution. 2. The Council of Ministers. In the exercise of her functions, the President is aided and advised by a Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. In actual practice, the executive power of the Union resides in the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers consists of three categories of ministers, namely A. Cabinet Ministers, B. Ministers of State, and C. Deputy Ministers. The Cabinet, which consists of Cabinet Ministers, is responsible for shaping the overall policies of the government in discharging its responsibilities. A Minister of State with independent charge also attends a cabinet meeting when subject matter of her department is considered. The cabinet also functions through its committees. 2.3. Allocation Transaction of Government Business. Among the rules issued by the President for the convenient transaction of the business of the government, under Article 77(3) of the Constitution, are the Government of India Allocation of Business Rules, 1961, as amended from time to time, and the Government of India Transaction of Business Rules, 1961, as amended from time to time. The allocation and transaction of business rules are available on the website of Cabinet Secretariat www.cabsec.nic.in. The Government of India Allocation of Business Rules, 1961 allocates the business of the government among its different departments which are assigned to the charge of the ministers by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. In relation to the business allotted to a minister, these rules also permit the association of another minister or deputy minister to perform such functions as may be specifically assigned to him/her. 6. The Government of India Transaction of Business Rules, 1961 seeks to define the authority, responsibility and obligations of each department in the matter of disposal of business allotted to it, while providing that the business allotted to a department will be disposed of by, or under the direction of, the minister in charge. These rules also specify a. Cases or classes of cases to be submitted to the President, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet or its committees for prior approval, and b. The circumstances in which the department primarily concerned with the business under disposal will have to consult other departments concerned and secure their concurrence comments before taking final decisions. 2.4. Ministry Department. A Ministry Department is responsible for formulation of policies, schemes of the government in relation to business allocated to it and also for their implementation, monitoring and review. For the efficient disposal of business allotted to it, a department is divided into wings, divisions, branches and sections, units, cells. A department is normally headed by a secretary to the Government of India who acts as the administrative head of the department and principal advisor of the minister on all matters of policy and administration within the department. The work in a department is divided into wings with a special secretary, additional secretary, joint secretary in charge of each wing. A wing comprises of a number of divisions each functioning under the charge of an officer of the level of director, joint director, deputy secretary or equivalent officer, called division head. A division may have branches, each under the charge of an under-secretary or equivalent officer, as branch officer. A section or a desk is the lowest unit in a department with a well-defined area of work. It consists of assistant section officer, senior secretariat assistants, as dealing officers and junior secretariat assistants as clerical support. Sections are supervised by a section officer or an equivalent officer. There are departments that have a unit or cell which is almost similar to a section. Initial processing and submission of cases through noting and drafting is primarily done by dealing officers of the level of ASO, ACSA or JSA. However, there are instances where cases are to be initiated at higher level. Even in such cases, functionaries in the section will provide the required assistance. Desk 7. Functionaries deal with cases independently with stenographic assistance and submit them to his/her next higher officer in the hierarchy. While the above represents the commonly adopted pattern of organization of a department, there are certain variations, the most notable among them being the desk officer system. In this system, the work of a department at the lowest level is organized into distinct functional desks, each manned by 2 desk functionaries of appropriate ranks, e.g. undersecretary or section officer. Each desk functionary handles the cases himself/herself and is provided adequate support staff. Designated sections handling work of O&M/WS activities. A. Based on the recommendations of SU, Department of Expenditure, the O&M/IWSU setup has been abolished in the Ministry's departments. While Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances provide some initiatives, incentive, information, advice, etc. The main task of evolving and implementing reform measures will continue to be responsibility of all ministries, departments who may entrust the job to their appropriate formation like administration, coordination, etc. Strengthening of these divisions for handling the O&M work for necessary improvements, simplification, streamlining in administration in the ministries departments concerned will, therefore, be essential. Similar steps will also be taken in the attached subordinate offices and public sector undertakings autonomous bodies. B. For O&M studies, ministries departments will be guided by the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. As regards the work relating to work measurement studies is concerned, the units will be guided by the Staff Inspection Unit of the Department of Expenditure. C. An illustrative list of functions to be performed by designated IWSU O&M units is given in Appendix -2.1. 2.5. Integrated Headquarters of Ministry of Defense. Integrated Headquarters of Ministry of Defense comprising Army Headquarters, Naval Headquarters, Air Headquarters and Defense Staff Headquarters will be associated in the formulation of policies in relation to matters concerning the defense of India and the armed forces of the Union. They would be responsible for providing executive direction required in the implementation of policies laid down by the Ministry of Defense. They shall exercise delegated administrative and financial powers. The role and functions the services headquarters, now designated as integrated headquarters in all other aspects remain unchanged. 8. 2.6. Attached and subordinate offices. Where the execution of the policies of the government requires decentralization of executive action and/or direction, a department may have its executive agencies as _attached and _subordinate officers. Attached officers provide detailed executive directions required in the implementation of the policies, as laid down from time to time by the ministry department to which they are attached. They also serve as a repository of technical information and also advise the department on various aspects of matter dealt by them. Subordinate officers generally function as field establishments or as agencies responsible for the detailed execution of the policies of the government. They function under the direction of an attached office, or where the volume of executive direction involved is not considerable, directly under a department. In the latter case, they assist the departments concerned in handling technical matters in their respective fields of specialization. 2.7. Constitutional bodies. Such bodies are constituted under the provisions of the Constitution of India, such as Controller and Auditor General of India, Election Commission of India, Union Public Service Commission, etc. 2.8. Statutory bodies. Such bodies are established under the statute or an Act of Parliament. They work within the scope, mandate and powers legally provided to them by an Act of the Parliament, e.g. Central Vigilance Commission, Central Information Commission, Central Board of Film Certification, National Commission for Backward Class etc. 2.9. Autonomous bodies. Such bodies are established by the government to discharge the activities functions relating to execution implementation of policies of the government. They are given autonomy to discharge their functions in accordance with the Memorandum of Associations etc. However, the government's overall control exists to the extent of its policy framework on the subject. Some of the programs and activities are funded fully or partly by the Government of India, generally through grants in aid. They are registered under the Societies Registration Act, 1861. Example, Central Board of Secondary Education, Indian Institute of Public Administration, etc. 2.10. Central Public Sector Enterprises. Central Public Sector Enterprise (CPSE) is the company under the administrative control of Central Ministry Department holding more than 50% of the equity by Central Govt. The subsidiaries of these companies, if registered in India wherein any CPSE has more than 50% equity, are also categorized as CPSEs. It also covers certain statutory corporations like Airport Authority of India, Food Corporation of India and Central Warehousing 9. Corporation. The shares of CPSEs are held by the President of India or his nominees and managed by Board of Directors, which include official and non-official directors, other shareholders, or by the holding companies. The departmentally run public enterprise, banking institutions and insurance companies are not covered under the definitions of CPSE. 2.11. Information and Facilitation Counters (IFCs). The Information and Facilitation Counter will provide the following services to the clients customers of the organization. I. Information regarding services provided and programs, schemes etc. supported by the organization and the relevant rules and procedures, brochures, folders etc. E. Facilitating the customer client to obtain the services of the organization optimally, timely, efficiently and in a transparent manner and providing forms etc. for public usage. E. Information regarding the standards of quality of service, time norms, etc. evolved by the organization with reference to the services, schemes, functioning of the organization. IV. Information regarding hierarchical setup of public grievance redress machinery of the organization. And V. Receiving, acknowledging and forwarding the grievances, application, request form etc. related to the services provided by the organization to the concerned authority in the organization and providing information on their status disposal. 10. Appendix 2.1 Para 2.4 V. Illustrative list of functions to be performed by designated section handling. Work of Internal Work Study Units O&M. 1. Organization and Method Studies. I. Rationalization of structures and procedures suo motu or on request, including those relating to activities where the public comes into contact with governmental administration with a view to facilitate better service delivery to the public. For these studies they will compile and maintain up-to-date information concerning the organization and functions of the ministry department including an organizational chart. E. Information system, review and rationalization of reports and returns, devising procedures to facilitate easier collection, transmission, distribution, processing, storage and prompt retrieval of information. E. Form design and control, to merge or simplify forms. IV. Standardization of forms of communication. V. Manner of processing repetitive work by developing standard process sheets. V. Review of need for continuance of advisory bodies, e.g. committees and councils. V. Periodic review of delegation of financial and administrative powers. V. Filing. A. Drawing up standardized file indices broadly based on functional designs and periodic review thereof. B. Developing more effective and simpler systems of filing for various items or work or information both manual and the electronic. And facilitate move towards paperless governance. X. Records management. A. Facilitate preparation or review of record retention schedules concerning substantive functions of the ministry department by the concerned sections. 11. B. Scrutiny of quarterly reports of arrears relating to recording, indexing, weeding, etc. of files and suggesting required remedial action. X. Office layout. 2. Work measurement studies. I. Undertaking work measurement studies, including scrutiny of proposals for creation of posts received from other sections, divisions, etc. E. Assisting staff inspection unit in work measurement studies. E. Drawing up and reviewing output norms. 3. Controlling delay scrutiny of various kinds of statements to monitor delays and to bring to notice of appropriate officers for timely public delivery of services. 4. Inspections including surprise inspections of sections and ensuring that they are carried out by the officers concerned. E. Scrutiny of the inspection reports, to locate the more common of serious defects to suggesting appropriate remedial action and offer reporting to the department. 4. Inspections. I. Drawing up a program of inspections including surprise inspections of sections and ensuring that they are carried out by the officers concerned. E. Scrutiny of the inspection reports, to locate the more common of serious defects to suggesting appropriate remedial action and offer reporting to the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. 5. Manualization. Overseeing prompt compilation and manualization of administration orders and instructions by the section concerned. 6. Reports of the Administrative Reforms Commission, Staff Inspection Unit and other external bodies in their processing and implementation. These reports will be handled by sections designated to handle the internal work study units only if the recommendations therein relate to the work allotted to designated section. In all other cases, they will be transferred to the sections concerned with the substance of the reports. 7. Identification of problem areas in and under the Ministry Department, including cases of delay, either while performing the functions under I to 6 above or otherwise, e.g. scrutiny of reports of parliamentary committees, other committees or commissions of inquiry or at the instance of higher officers in the Ministry Department and study of such problems cases, with a view to I. Locating common types of defects and devising suitable remedies to prevent their recurrence, or e. Taking up the matter with the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, making suggestions for improvement, if necessary. The review of cases of delay will not extend to fixing responsibility. 12. Notes. 1. Should a problem relating to any of the above items concern all the ministry's departments, it should be remitted to the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances DARPG for study. 2. When such studies are undertaken by the DARPG, the designated section should participate as liaison agencies of the department for assisting in collection and processing of data, conducting case studies or surveys, etc. in their own ministry's departments. 13. Functionaries and Functions Chapter 3. 3.1. The broad functions and responsibilities of various functionaries in the Secretariat of a Ministry Department are given in the succeeding paragraphs. To maximize governance, it is necessary to delegate powers to various functionaries. Functionaries and Functions Chapter 3. 3.1. The broad functions and responsibilities of various functionaries in the Secretariat of a Ministry Department are given in the succeeding paragraphs. To maximize governance, it is necessary to delegate powers to various functionaries. I. Secretary. A Secretary to the Government of India is the administrative head of the Ministry Department. Functionaries and Functions Chapter 3. 3.1. The broad functions and responsibilities of various functionaries in the Secretariat of a Ministry Department are given in the succeeding paragraphs. To maximize governance, it is necessary to delegate powers to various functionaries. I. Secretary. A Secretary to the Government of India is the administrative head of the Ministry Department. She is the principal advisor of the Minister on all matters of policy and administration within her Ministry Department, and her responsibility is complete and undivided. He is the Chief Accounting Authority of the Ministry Department. Special Secretary, Additional Secretary, Joint Secretary. Such a functionary is normally vested with the maximum measure of independent functioning and responsibility in respect of the business falling within her wing, subject to the overall responsibility of the Secretary for the administration of the department. Director Deputy Secretary. Director Deputy Secretary is an officer who acts on behalf of the Secretary, holds charge of a Secretariat division and responsible for the disposal of government business dealt with in the division under her charge. She should ordinarily be able to dispose of the cases as per the powers delegated or as per the channel of submission of the department. IV. Undersecretary. An undersecretary is in charge of a branch in a ministry department consisting of one or more sections, units, cells and exercises control both in regard to the disposal of business and maintenance of discipline. As branch officer, he disposes of as many cases as possible at his own level, but she takes the orders of deputy secretary or higher officers on important cases. She is inter alia responsible for development and maintenance of aids to processing as tools of manual and electronic knowledge management. Desk officer, an undersecretary or senior section officer functions as desk functionary depending on nature of the responsibilities attached to the desk. She examines and submits cases independently to the next higher officer, and has the power of decision making as that of an undersecretary. The desk officer can also sign orders, financial sanctions and affirm affidavits in courts. Section officer. A section officer is in charge of a section, the primary unit of a department in the secretariat, comprising a team of assistant section officers, senior secretariat assistants as dealing officers and junior secretariat assistants and MTS as supporting staff. A section officer 14 has overall responsibility for supervising the activities and performance of the section with the help of dealing officers and clerical support besides. Distribution of work among staff, training, helping, advising them in the matter of work, maintenance of discipline and team spirit in the section. Monitoring of efficient and expeditious disposal of cases. Timely submission of reports and returns to higher officers and other concerned units and managing effective person-independent information management and records management in the section. Detailed responsibilities of section officer are at Appendix 3.1. Personal staff members of officers, principal staff officer, senior principal private secretary, principal private secretary. Preparing executive summary on the important issues, important files facilitating decision making, and summary of previously asked replied questions and briefing the officer accordingly. Management of personal section, providing leadership. International, national level liaison and networking, coordination with Parliament, ministries, departments, and other officers, handling visitors, facilitating meetings, conferences, etc. Keep herself aware of the key performance areas, vision, mission of the ministry department. Security of personal and official information of the officer with whom he is working with and facilitating grievance handling. Maintaining engagement diary. Managing tours including foreign and domestic tours, managing office while the officer is away from office in meeting, on tour or on leave. Private secretary, personal assistant and stenographer grade, D. Taking dictation, transcribing, handling telephone calls, receiving visitors, tour program, travel arrangements, maintaining the papers required to be retained by the officer and maintaining engagement diary, etc. 15. Handling confidential and secret letters, dark files, handling parliamentary work, security of information, facilitating meetings, conferences. Assistant section officer, senior secretariat assistant. She works as dealing officer under the supervision of the section officer. Each dealing officer is allocated subjects out of the subject areas allocated to the section and she is expected to deal with all matters allocated or any other work assigned to him/her from time to time. Junior secretariat assistant provides miscellaneous support to the section, unit desk in carrying out day-to-day work like photocopying, record handling and maintenance, registration of dark, marking, sending receipts, files and other associated tasks or any other work assigned from time to time. She may be assigned case work of repetitive nature. Multitasking staff, MTS, erstwhile group, D, posts of peon, diphthery, jamadar, junior gestetna operator, farash, chokada, safaiwala, mali etc. are now designated as MTS. An illustrative but not exhaustive list of duties of MTS are: Physical maintenance of records of section. General cleanliness and upkeep of the section unit. Carrying of files and other papers within the building. Photocopying, sending of fax etc. Other non-clerical work in the section's unit. Assisting in routine office work like diary, dispatch etc. including on computer. Delivering of dark inside and outside the building. Watch and ward duties. Opening and closing of rooms. Cleaning of rooms. Dusting of furniture etc. Cleaning of building, fixture etc. Work related to his ITI qualification, if it exists. Driving of vehicles, if in possession of valid driving license. XV. Upkeep of parks, lawns, potted plants etc. XVI. Any other work assigned by superior authority. Note: duties of untrained multitasking staff (MTS) have been provided at Annex A of the Department of Personnel and Training's OM No. AB-14017 6/2009 Ist. RR dated the 30th of April 2010 at website www. Pasman. NIC. Int. 16. Appendix 3.1 Para 3.1 V. Detailed responsibilities of Section Officer. A. General duties. I. Ensure a file system is implemented and sustained. E. Distribution of work among the staff as evenly as possible. E. Training, helping and advising the staff. IV. Management and coordination of the work. V. Maintenance of order and discipline in the section. V. Maintenance of a list of residential addresses of the staff. B. Responsibilities relating to DARC. I. To go through the receipts. E. To submit receipts which should be seen by the branch officer or higher officers at the DARC stage. E. To keep a watch on any hold-up in the movement of DARC. And IV. To scrutinize the section register once a week to know that it is being properly maintained. We. Ensure digital registration of DARC. We. Review category of receipt and ensure correct labeling, VIP per megapixel, RTI, PG. C. Responsibilities relating to issue of draft. I. To see that all corrections have been made in the draft before it is marked for issue. E. To indicate whether a clean copy of the draft is necessary. E. To indicate the number of spare copies required. IV. To check whether all enclosures are attached. V. To indicate priority marking. V. To indicate mode of dispatch. D. Responsibility of efficient and expeditious disposal of work and checks on delays. I. To keep a note of important receipts with a view to watching the progress of action. E. To ensure timely submission of arrear and other returns. E. To undertake inspection of dealing officer table to ensure that no paper or file has been overlooked. IV. To ensure that cases are not held up at any stage. V. To go through the list of periodical returns. Take suitable action. IV. To E. To undertake inspection of dealing officer table to ensure that no paper or file has been overlooked. IV. To ensure that cases are not held up at any stage. V. To go through the list of periodical returns every week and take suitable action on items requiring attention during next week. Week A. Independent disposal of cases 17. T. She should take independently action of the following types. I. Issuing reminders. E. Obtaining or supplying factual information of a non-classified nature. E. Any other action which a section officer is authorized to take independently is laid down in the departmental instructions. F. Duties in respect of recording and indexing. I. To approve the recording of files and their categorization. E. To review the recorded file before destruction. E. To order and supervise periodic weeding of unwanted spare copies. IV. Ensuring proper maintenance of registers required to be maintained in the section. V. Ensuring proper maintenance of reference books, office orders etc. and keep them up to date. V. Ensuring neatness and tidiness in the section. V. Dealing with important and complicated cases himself. V. Ensuring strict compliance with departmental security instructions. 18. Decision Making in Government Chapter 4. 4.1. In a parliamentary form of government, the Council of Ministers shall collectively be responsible to the House of the People. The powers of the President of India are exercised by him on the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. 4.2. The two key features of the Government of India transaction. The two key features of the government. 18. Decision Making in Government Chapter 4. 4.1. In a parliamentary form of government, the Council of Ministers shall collectively be responsible to the House of the People. The powers of the President of India are exercised by him on the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. 4.2. The two key features of the Government of India Transaction of Business Rules, 1961 Para 2.3. E. are that I. All business allotted to a department under the Government of India, Allocation of Business Rules, 1961, Para 2.3. I. Is to be disposed of by, or under the general or special directions of, the minister in charge, except where such authority is required to be exercised by some other competent authority under these rules. And E. When the subject of a case concerns more than one department, a decision can be taken or order issued only after such departments have concurred in, or, failing such concurrence, a decision thereon has been taken by or under the authority of the Cabinet or the Cabinet Committee. Financial and administrative powers have been delegated to authorities under the minister in charge through acts, rules, executive instructions and departmental instructions. Therefore, one must look into the relevant documents to determine A. The procedure to be followed, and B. Who the competent authority is. 4.3. Powers have generally been delegated to the secretary of a department or head of department or head of office. I. In cases of matters delegated to the secretary of the department, a head of department or head of office, the case is processed by the office on a file to enable the competent authority to take a decision. E. In case of decisions bearing financial implications that are beyond the powers delegated to a department, interministerial consultations provided for the Standing Finance Committee (SFC), Expenditure Finance Committee (EFC), Public Investment Board (PIB), Public-Private Partnership Approval Committee (PPPAC), and preparation of memorandum for SFC, EFC, PIB and PPPAC instructions issued by Ministry of Finance are to be followed. 19. E. For decisions requiring approval of Committee of Secretaries, Group of Ministers, Committee of the Cabinet or the Cabinet, guidelines issued by the Cabinet Secretariat are to be adopted. IV. Illustrative examples of cases where such interministerial consultations are required are given in the Table 4.1. Table 4.1, illustrative list of cases where interministerial consultations are required. SL. No. Matters pertaining to Ministry Department to be consulted. 1. Financial Matters Ministry of Finance. 2. Personnel Matters Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions. 3. Matters relating to proposals concerning legislation, the making of rules and orders and preparation of important contracts to be entered into by the government etc. Ministry of Law and Justice. 4. Matters affecting India's external relations including agreements and treaties with foreign countries. Ministry of External Affairs. 5. Proposals concerning Northeastern Region. Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region. 6. Economic Matters National Institution for Transforming India. Niti Aayog. V. The illustrative list in Table 4.2 gives some of the documents and the websites where these documents are accessible. Table 4.2, illustrative list of documents and websites. SL. No. Documents website. 1. User manual of a file web links to Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in Rajya Sabha. Web links 10. ASP. 3. Directions by Chairman Rajya Sabha. Web links here. ASP. 4. Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in Lok Sabha. Web links. 5. Directions of the Speaker under the Rules of Procedure and Web links 20. Conduct of Business in Lok Sabha 6. Procedure to be followed by ministries in connection with parliamentary work. Web links 7. Handbook on writing Cabinet notes for preparing note for the Cabinet Committees Group of Ministers Committee of Secretaries. Web links 8. Instructions on Constitution Reconstitution of High-Level Commissions Committees, etc. Web links S_High-Level_Committee and Special. 9. Authentication Orders and Other Instruments Rules, 2002. Web links less Authentication Order 2002. PDF. 10. General Financial Rules, 2017 Web links. 0. PDF. 11. Delegation of Financial Powers Rules, 1978. Web links %20i. PDF. 12. Matters relating to public procurement. Manual on Policies and Procedures for Purchase of Goods, 2017. Manual of Policies and Procedure of Employment of Consultants, 2017. and Manual on Policies and Procedure for Procurement of Works. Web links 0 for %20 procurement %20 of %20 goods %200 in 2017 _0 _ PDF web link 0 for %20 procurement %20 of %20 PDF www. AC. Into PDF 13. Matters pertaining to Expenditure Finance Committee, EFC Public Investment Board PIB. Web links appraisal _approval _schemes _projects. PDF 14. Matters relating to Public-Private Partnership Approval Committee PPPAC projects. Web links 15. Records Retention Schedule 2012. Web links antique file. PDF 16. Composition of the Gazette of India and instructions for publication therein. Appendix 8.2 of this manual. 17. Guidelines for Indian Government Websites GIGW. www. DARPG. NIC. In web links website should be got audited by the 21. Directorate of Standard Testing Quality and Certificate STQC www. STQC. Gov. In and GIGW certificate obtained from them. The websites should be updated on regular basis. 18. Guidelines for preparation of departmental manuals. www. DARPG. NIC. In. 19. Legal Information Management and Briefing System. www. LIMS. Gov. In. 20. Online Assurances Monitoring System. Web links. 21. Audit Para Monitoring System Web links 22. Public Finance Management System. Web links. 23. Single User Platform related to employees. Web links. URL link change from time to time. 4.4. For matters delegated to an authority within a ministry department, decisions are arrived at through noting Paras 7.2 and 7.3 from the initiating officer on a file which is submitted to the competent authority through the channel of submission. 4.5. Sections desks are encouraged to develop and update tools of knowledge management described in Chapter 11 to develop and institutionalize a persona-independent information system for retention of knowledge and its transfer to the successors. 4.6. The role of government directors on boards of public enterprises shall be governed by the DPEOM No. 1824-2003 GMGL 49 dated 4 December 2003 as amended from time to time in other relevant guidelines orders in this regard. 4.7. The process of decision-making in government depends on whether it needs approval of the Parliament or the Cabinet Committee of the Cabinet or is within the powers of the Minister or Secretary. Thus, decisions made in government may be categorized as under A. Legislative proposals. B. Policy issues. C. Other than legislative proposals or policy issues under the delegated powers of the Ministry. 4.8. The process of decision-making in case of legislative matters proposals that need approval of the Parliament or the Cabinet or a committee of the Cabinet is as 22. Under. The process of decision-making in case of, other than legislative proposals or policy issues under the delegated powers of the Ministry, is given in Chapter 7. Process of decision-making in case of legislative matter proposal that needs approval of the Parliament or the Cabinet or a committee of the Cabinet. Brainstorm within the department. Consultations with the stakeholders including civil society or chambers of commerce or state governments and other departments within the union government. Formulation of legislative proposal or policy issue. Interministerial consultations IMC. Obtain approval of the Cabinet or the Committee of the Cabinet. Introduce the bill in the Parliament where approval of Parliament is needed. Obtain the approval of the Parliament. Obtain the assent of the President 23. 4.9 Efficiency in decision-making in the government. Efficient decision-making is fundamental to a responsive and accountable governance. Accelerating the pace and efficiency of decision-making is crucial for economic growth and enhancing the ease of living of citizens. The CSMOP aims to bring simplicity, efficiency and transparency in government processes and procedures. It has a guiding framework for effective functioning of the Central Secretariat offices. Compliance of the following provisions of CSMOP will enable enhancing efficiency in decision making. A. Make available on the website of the department the channel of submission of cases, other than the classified ones. Review, at least once in 3 years, the levels of disposal and channels of submission. Based on this, the dealing officer will take action on the cases. Secretary of the concerned ministry, department may consider forming interdisciplinary teams for addressing cross-cutting issues. Para 7.6 of CSMOP, 2019b. Each ministry department shall identify the work that could be handled in a more effective and efficient manner for optimal use of desk officer system. Para 3.1 of CSMOP, 2019c. A office platform should be optimally used by ministries departments to bring more transparency, efficiency, and accountability in the government transactions, leading to increased promptness and productivity. For this, the reskilling, upskilling of the officers and the staff shall be suitably addressed. Ministries departments should take action to migrate to updated versions of A Office from time to time. Chapter 15 of CSMOP, 2019d. Every ministry department as well as their attached and subordinate officers shall strengthen the Central Registry Unit (CRU) by meeting the human resources and infrastructure needs for the functioning of the Digital Secretariat. Appendix 5.2 of CSMOP, 2019-24. Management of DAC and Receipts. Chapter 5. Flowchart of disposal of a DAC or receipt. Central Registration Unit (CRU). 5.1. Receipt of DAC. I. During office hours, all DAC including those addressed to ministers, officers by name will be received in the. However, DAC with urgency grading addressed to the ministers, officers by name is sent through special messenger directly to the addressee themselves. It will be received by them or their personal staff. In case an officer is on leave, training tour, retired, transferred from the office post, the successor, the personal staff concerned, the link officer, the officer below such retired, transferred officer concerned, dealing with the subject, will receive the DAC with urgency grading except in case of confidential letters. In case none of these officers are in position, CRU will receive such letters. In no case immediate and/or important letters should be undelivered or returned by the department. Outside the office hours, DAC will be received by the addressee himself at his residence if marked immediate and addressed by name. In such cases, the officer will normally be informed in advance over telephone about the DAC being delivered at his residence. In all other cases, DAC will be received outside office hours by A. the night duty clerk of the department concerned, or B. where no such arrangement exists, by the officer designated by the ministry department concerned to receive such DAC. Received in Information and Facilitation Counter (IFC) CRU. R&I. Section. Initial source of DAC. Section as custodian of records. Divisional head. Based on delegation of powers, the case may be submitted to minister or may need interministerial consultations. Branch. Officer. Communi. Cation of. Decision 25. C. In other cases, such DAC will be dealt with in accordance with the departmental instructions. IV communication received through emails in the department will be downloaded centrally by the department by a designated person, who will forward the same to the central registry. Such communications addressed to the ministers, officers will be downloaded by them or their personal staff. Box A. 5.1. In a file, all physical DAC irrespective of whether the department is working in physical or electronic mode will be received through FS in the receipt inbox of receipt section. 5.2. Scrutiny of DAC. DAC with urgency grading will be separated from other DAC and dealt with first. All covers, except those addressed to ministers, officers by name or those bearing a security grading, will be opened by the CRU IFC. On opening of DAC, the CRU IFC will check enclosures and indicate on the DAC, if any, item found missing. IV. All open DAC, as well as the covers of an open classified DAC, will be date stamped as under. Box 5.1. Specimen of rubber stamp Ministry Department of received on CRU IFC registration number The template is similar, in cases where personal staff of minister officers are registering the DAC. Instead of Ministry, Department, Office of _ or the designation of divisional head, a branch officer will be mentioned. 26. The entire DAC is sorted out section-wise and officer-wise if addressed by name. To facilitate this, the CRU shall keep an up-to-date list of allocation of the subjects to various sections officers issued by the Ministry Department. Box A. 5.2. The receipt number generated is unique and is non-editable. It also is appended with section code for easy identification. Date and time stamp of receipt generation, which is maintained in the system, is also available with the receipt in electronic mode. 5.3. Registration of DAC. DAC should be registered at the entry level so as to maintain accountability of every paper received by the respective department. CRU should be strengthened with resources for registration of DAC at the entry level. CRU should have registers in the prescribed format Appendix 5.1 to register DAC. All DAC need to be registered at the entry level except the following. This may be varied as per the departmental instructions. A. Receipts which, as a class, are adequately taken care of by a register specially devised for the purpose, e.g. telephone bills which are entered in telephone register. B. Communications received from members of parliament for which a separate register is maintained for watching their disposal vide para 12.2. C. Identical copies of representations except the one received first, unless directions remarks are recorded by a senior officer. D. Casual leave applications. A. Copies of miscellaneous circulars, office memoranda, extracts, etc. circulated by any section for general information, e.g. orders of general application, telephone lists, notices of holidays, tour programs, etc. And F. Any other categories of receipts which under departmental instructions are not required to be registered. The CRU IFC will maintain one or more registers as required. 27. Box A. 5.3. Box A. 5.4. Note: transition mode means processing of receipts and file is done physically and tracking is done electronically through a file. Electronic mode means processing of receipts and files is done electronically through a file. Log of movement details of files and receipts, electronic as well as physical, is maintained in the system. Box A. 5.5. In a file, all DAC are registered as explained in Appendix 5.2 and 5.3. The registration number thus generated is unique in nature and is a running number throughout the department. Every time the CRU, an officer accesses the file for registering the DAC, a new number will automatically be generated against it. Registers maintained at various levels like CRU register, section register in the personal section, a staff register, etc. need not be maintained in the electronic environment as the system saves all the data and search and retrieval processes are done based on these data, computer number, receipt number, keyword of subject. 5.4. Acknowledgement of DAC. The receipt of DAC including files from other departments, except ordinary postal DAC, will be acknowledged by the recipient in the department by signing in ink in full in the messenger peon book with name, date and designation. A specimen of registration. Physical mode, electronic mode. Physical DAC. Scan, save as single PDF document and register. Electronic DAC. Register using the FS system. Transition mode. Physical DAC. No need to scan. Enter metadata and register the DAC. Write registration number on official receipt. Electronic DAC. Take printout. Enter metadata and register the DAC. Write registration number on official receipt. 28. Messenger book is given in box 5.2. The DAC received through emails should be acknowledged. Box 5.2. Specimen of messenger peon book. Box A. 5.6. In a file, acknowledgement of a DAC is automatically done by the system through SMS and/or email, after registration of DAC, provided the mobile number and email address fields in contact details of the sender are filled in during registration, in DAC registration screen. Also there is a provision to send acknowledgements in templates, e.g. letterheads of officers. 5.5. Distribution of receipts. I. The receipt will be sent to the section officer concerned and acknowledged by the receiver. Alternatively, receipt may be distributed and acknowledgement obtained in the register maintained section-wise, officer-wise. Box A. 5.7. In a file, when registration of DAC is done electronically but processing on it is done physically, then the acknowledgement is done as above because the paper receipt moves manually. However, when registration and processing both are done electronically, then no register is required. DAC with urgency grading is to be distributed as and when received. Other DAC may be distributed at suitable intervals, i.e. 11 am, 2 pm and 4 pm. Such part of the ordinary DAC as is received too late to be included in the last daily round, will be kept ready for distribution early next day. The official in charge of the CRU will ensure that A. As far as possible, sorting and registering of DAC is completed on the day of its receipt. Date, reference number of the document, full signature of the recipient with name, date and designation, DD per millimeter, E29. B. To the extent which the above work cannot be completed during the day, and without prejudice to the processing of immediate priority DAC, the night duty staff attends to it. And C. The total number of receipts pending at the end of the day for sorting and registering are handed over to the night duty staff. Full signatures of the night duty staff are obtained in token of having taken custody of these. DAC with urgency grading received outside office hours is to be sent to the sections concerned if there is staff on duty. IV. Sending communications through email is to be encouraged. Emails facilitate quicker dispatch, distribution and receipt of communications. Parliament units, budget sections and coordination sections must extensively send, distribute and receive communications through emails with carbon copy CC to authorized officers and sections concerned. While furnishing information on such references, senders must, apart from attaching PDF documents, attach the Word and Excel documents also to facilitate quicker compilation. Departmental instructions may be issued, if need be. 5.6. Perusal and marking, sending of receipts. On receiving the receipts, the section officer will I. Go through the receipt, forward missent receipts or emails directly to the section concerned. Separate those which either under the departmental instructions or in his or her discretion should be seen by higher officers. IV. Retain such of the remaining receipts and emails as are of a difficult nature or have any special feature requiring his/her personal attention. We. Mark other receipts to the dealing officers concerned and where necessary indicate urgency grading, deadline and/or give directions regarding line of action. We. Keep a note in his/her register of important receipts requiring prompt action or disposal by a specified date. And we. Submit the file to the officer who last noted on it, if it is the one returned by other ministry department. Box A. 5.8. In a file, the marking of a receipt or a file is made to the officer concerned in predefined field, including self. In case of receipt, there is a provision to mark a copy to other officers too. Direction may be given from the drop-down menu of Action. Sender may use the Remarks field to record his 30 comments. Officers can set due date for submission in the Set Due Date field. 5.7. Movement of receipt. Manual receipt submitted to officers will move in pads conspicuously labeled as receipt pad. Their movement and perusal will receive prompt attention. The section officer will keep a careful watch on any hold-up in the movement of receipts and take action to expedite. The section will bring to his notice any receipt which is not received back from officers within 1 day. Box A. 5.9. A file tracks every movement of a receipt or a file. 5.8. Action by higher officers. Officers to whom receipts are submitted will I. Go through the receipts, initial them and return them to the section officer. Remove receipts which they may like to process or dispose of at his level or to submit to higher officers at dark stage, in which case movement of such receipts are to be made by the personal staff. Ensure that an existing file is obtained from the section or a new file is opened by the section with respective references made in the file register for action as in para 5.8e. 5.9. Allocation of disputed receipts. If a section feels that it is not concerned with a missent receipt or email forwarded to it, it should be brought to the notice of the Undersecretary so designated by the departmental instructions for deciding allocation of disputed receipt. In case of dispute, he will be responsible for the settlement of the dispute at the earliest within 2 working days from the date of receipt in the department, except that in case of disputed receipts with urgency grading, she will decide within half a day. 5.10. Action on receipt by functionaries in the department. A. General principles. Action on receipts will be so organized that it results in speedy and correct decision-making process. Certain general principles to be observed in this regard are given below. Paperwork will be kept at an essential minimum. 31. Least possible time will be taken for examination and disposal of cases, unless a specific time limit has been prescribed in the receipt or in the departmental instructions. While disposing of cases, an officer will aim at optimizing the quality as well as the quantity of work performed by him. The objective should be speed with accuracy. Simplified and pre-structured formats, standard process sheets, will be developed for processing repetitive cases. Simplified formats should also be devised for the benefit of the citizens in their interaction with the officers. B. Action by dealing officer. The dealing officer must go through the receipts and segregate from the rest as per the urgency grading. Deal with the receipts with urgency grading first, followed by other receipts and cases. Check enclosures and, if any, found missing, initiate prompt action to obtain it. See whether any other section is concerned with any part or aspect of a receipt, and if so, send copies or relevant extracts to that section for necessary action. Process the receipt on a current file or open a new file. Para 6.6 and Appendix 6.3. File papers in accordance with the instructions in Para 6.6. With the help of various tools of knowledge management like Standing Guard files, Para 11.4, Precedent Book, Para 11.6, Reference Folder, Para 11.7, etc. Locate and collect other files or papers, if any, referred to in the receipt, or has a bearing on the issues raised therein. Identify and examine the issues involved in the receipt case and record a note based on functional approach to noting. Para 7.14. Arrange papers, Box 6.1. X2 referencing, Para 6.7. Sheet 2 docketing, Para 6.8. Where necessary, attach a label indicating the urgency grading, Para 6.13, and security grading appropriate to the case. Sign the note, Para 7.3. Submit the file to officer as per the channel of submission. 32. Box A. 5.10. In a file, the system appends the file number automatically with receipt once it is put up on a file. Date of submission is reflected both on the notes and also in the movement details automatically, once the file is marked and sent. Action on missing enclosures, attachments. Dealing officer is to use standalone dispatch facility to obtain the missing enclosures attachment. In case this responsibility is assigned to CRU, the missing enclosure attachment can be obtained in shorter time. To achieve this, CRU has to be provided with an authorized email ID, as indicated in Appendix 5.2. C. Action by section officer. The section officer will scrutinize the note of the dealing officer. Dispose of routine cases, like obtaining information for draft reply to Parliament questions. Sending reminders, etc. Record, where necessary, a note setting out his own comments or suggestions. Submit the case to the higher officer. Monitor the progress of the case to avoid delay. On return of the file, take action, like issue of communication, further examination, etc. D. What constitutes routine cases in terms of above will be specified by each department in its departmental instructions. A. Action by branch officers and above. If in agreement with the views of the section, they will append the signature and submit the file to the competent authority. Else, they may return the file with written advice at B. Record own note and submit to the competent authority. 33. Appendix 5.1. Para 5.3i. DAC at register registration number particulars of DAC received brief subject to whom sent file number replied sent in Hindi English bilingual remarks no reply was necessary LATTAR reference number letter date from whom language date of registration 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 Instructions 1. Columns 1 to 5 will be filled at the stage of registration i.e. before the receipts are handed over to the dealing officers. 2. Devanagari script will be used for registering Hindi receipts. Hindi receipts may be suitably distinguished by either marking Hindi in column 5 or using a different color of ink. 3. Column 8 will be filled on the basis of entries in column 4 of the Assistant Section Officer's register. For this purpose, the registration officer will collect and consult the Assistant Section Officer register periodically, say once a week. 4. Columns 9 will be filled by the registration officer on receipt of office copy of issue. 5. In column 10, asterisk remarks is filled in based on need by the section. For instance, movement of receipts marked to officers for perusal, etc. No reply was necessary, will be filled in by the dealing officer after a decision has been taken at an appropriate level that no reply is necessary. 7. In the case of a desk, all the columns will be filled in, at appropriate stages, by the supporting staff attached to the desk functionary. At the register used in CRU, section and personal section of an officer will be known as CRU register, section register and personal section or staff register respectively. The format is, however, the same as in this appendix. 34. Appendix 5.2. Box A. 5.5. Functions of CRU. 1. CRU. Definition. Central Registration Unit. CRU means a section or unit within a department consisting of functionaries like resident clerk and night duty clerk data entry operator. The unit is entrusted with the responsibility of receiving, registering and converting physical DACs into electronic receipts, and distributing, marking and sending them. 2. CRU. Process flow. A. Receipt of DACs. The physical DAC for the department is received. B. Scanning. The physical DACs received is scanned and saved as PDF document. All papers of a single DAC must be scanned and saved in a single document. Cases wherein voluminous books, papers etc. are sent as annexure, the sender may be requested to send a soft copy or indicate public website link from where the book, etc. may be downloaded. C. Registration. I. The scanned copy of the DAC is uploaded in the system along with its details metadata if the processing of receipt is completely electronic. E. If the processing on a receipt is to be done in physical form, the registration is to be done using a file. In order to provide ease of access and avoid any loss of letter at a later point of time, the DAC should be scanned and uploaded during registration. E. If DAC received is in the form of email, following actions can be taken as per the processing nature in FS. Electronic processing in FS, the mail can be converted into PDFs for further processing. Physical processing in FS, a printout is to be taken. Fig. 1. The process flow 35. In both the processes, the metadata has to be entered and registration receipt number generated by the system, which is in seriatim for the entire ministry department. Storage of physical DACs after scanning. After scanning and registration, the physical DACs along with registration receipt number is to be sent to the respective sections. This is done so as to retrieve and refer to, if required. Distribution of receipt. The receipt may be forwarded to the concerned section. Disputed receipts are to be dealt with as prescribed in this manual para 5.9. Strengthening of CRU. The CRU is considered as the backbone for successful and sustainable implementation process of FS in the organization. Therefore, following aspects of a CRU must be looked into. A. Human resources. The unit must be equipped with technically skilled manpower with computer proficiency. B. Infrastructure. The unit would be dealing with heavy volume of DACs each containing multiple pages, on a daily basis. Thus it is very important to equip the unit with good quality, high-speed ADF scanners and new generation computer systems well connected over network for efficient productivity for the organization. 36. Appendix 5.3. Box A. 5.5. Guidelines for handling of DAX in CRU. Dark type registration scanning handing over procedure newspapers, magazines and periodicals. No handover to library. Private dark EGLIC reminders, personal bills. No handover to addressee PAMTS. Private dark by registered or speed post. No receive in paper register, take. Signature of addressee PAMTS. DAX by office name. Yes open envelope, scan, and register, electronically forward to section concerned. Write registration number on original paper and send to respective section. Dark by office name with bulky enclosures e.g. brochures etc. Yes scan covering letter. Enclosures sent as hard copy. Remarks about enclosures will be entered in the registration. If documents are important, officer section personnel staff may scan them and keep in a file against registration number. Dark by officer's name or marked private classified etc. Yes no will not be opened. However, it will be registered and electronically forwarded to the addressee. Registration number and date will be written on the unopened envelope and it will be sent to concerned officer or his/her PA. It will be duty of the addressee or his/her PA to scan it and enter into a file against the concerned registration number. Note: the above-mentioned guidelines are for reference purpose only. The departments need to have their own instructions depending on different types, nature and importance of DAX received. 37. Appendix 5.4. Para 2. B. Of Appendix 5.2. Scanning Guidelines. Note: the above-mentioned guidelines are for general reference purpose only. They may differ with different technological standards of the scanners. 38. File Management System Chapter 6. 6.1. File means a folder consisting of related papers on a specific subject consisting of one or more of the following parts with the file number. I. Correspondence portion, A, contains all incoming written communications that are inputs to take decision. And B. Office copy of the communication sent by office. E. Notes portion contains the process sheet, i.e. how decision was taken on a case. E. Appendix to correspondence portion, lengthy enclosures to a communication whether receipt or issue, on the file, which are likely to obstruct smooth reading of the correspondence or make the correspondence portion unwieldy. IV. Appendix to notes portion, a summary or statement containing detailed information concerning certain aspects of the question discussed on the file, incorporation of which in the main note is likely to obscure the main point or make the main note unnecessarily lengthy. Such aspects are processed in appendix to notes and key issues arising therefrom are then processed in the notes portion giving reference to the relevant page. Box A. 6.1. A file mainly comprises of A. Notes B. Correspondences C. Draft communication D. References A. Linked files, actionable files F. Attached files, linked for reference purposes. 6.2. File Management System. It has two connotations, I. The manner in which file number is given. And E. The manner in which papers are filed. A proper file numbering system is essential for convenient identification, sorting, storage and retrieval of papers. The two systems now in use in the Central Secretariat are A. Functional File Numbering System and 39. B. File Numbering based on Subject Classification or Conventional File Numbering System. They are described in the succeeding paragraphs. A. Functional File Numbering System. I. Functional file number was developed by DARPG in respect of functions common to all ministries and departments. Common Office Functions codes are given in Table 6.1. Table 6.1, Common Office Function Codes. Code records relating to common functions in ministries and departments. A. Establishment. B. Welfare. C. Vigilance. D. Common Office Services. A. Hindi. F. Public Relations. G. Finance, Budget, Cash and Accounts. H. Parliament Matters. I. RTI Matters. E. Broadly speaking, apart from the code indicating common office functions, functional file number will have alphanumeric code for basic, primary, secondary and tertiary heads. Table 6.2 read with Appendix 6.1. Serial number of the file opened during the year under such heads and numbers representing year of opening of the file. Table 6.2 Functional File Number System Codes at a glance. Relevant head. Activity. Basic heads. Functions to identify and list basic functions of the department. These may be called basic or grouped heads, e.g. establishment, B. Welfare, etc. For common office functions as prescribed by DARPG in web links and labor relations, foreigners, fertilizer, in case of substantive functions of the departments. Primary heads. Main activity. To list under each function, i.e. basic group heads, its main activities, identifying them by appropriate subject headings called primary heads. Secondary heads. To divide each primary head into sub-subjects or aspects called secondary heads. 40. Tertiary heads. Where necessary, break down each secondary head into its various known factors called tertiary heads. Details of how file numbers are assigned under the functional file number system is given in Appendix 6.1. B. Conventional file numbering system or file number system based on subject classification. File numbering under this system may vary from department to department and in each department, from section to section too. This is the reason why functional file system was devised to bring uniformity in file numbering system across all departments. However, many sections in a number of ministries and departments still use conventional file number system or file number system based on subject classification. A file number under this system normally has two or more file alphanumeral parts that contains A. Subject code, B. Subhead code, C. Serial number of the file opened, D. Year in which the file is opened, A. Ownership, which is an abbreviated form identifying the section. Details of how file numbers are assigned under the conventional file numbering system are given in Appendix 6.2. 6.3. Instances where files need not be opened. Normally, no new files will be opened for dealing with receipts of a purely routine nature, e.g. requests for supply of unclassified factual information, notices of holidays, miscellaneous circulars, which can be disposed of straight away by noting the reply on the source receipts and returning them to the originators, or unlikely to generate further correspondence. Therefore, can be placed in a miscellaneous file to be destroyed at the end of the year, or placed in the folder of circulars, etc. If any, on the subject. Departmental instructions may be issued on this. Box A. 6.2. File numbering in a file is based on the type of file numbering system adopted by the department. In case of functional file system, a file has a provision to include basic, primary, secondary and tertiary heads in respect of the substantive functions of the department. A file also has provision for file numbering system based on subject classification. However, efforts are to be made by each department to move from the file numbering system based on subject classification to the functional file numbering system. 41. How these are to be done is given in the file user manual available at web links. 6.4. File register. A record of files opened during a calendar year will be kept in a file register to be maintained by the section. Specimen of a file register is at Appendix 6.3. 6.5. File movement register. Movements of files are made in a file movement register. A specimen of a file movement register is at Appendix 6.4. Departments are advised to use the file MIS report available in FS. 6.6. Filing of papers. Filing of papers means placing the PUC and/or FRs in the correspondence portion and the notes in the note portion of the file. Papers required to be filed are to be punched on the left-hand top corner, leaving 1 inch each on the top and left corner and tagged onto the appropriate part of the file with notes, correspondence, appendix to notes and appendix to correspondence, in chronological order, top to bottom with the oldest reference at the top and the latest at the bottom. Both the notes portion and the correspondence portion of a file are to be separately page numbered. The first page of the correspondence, say page number 1, shall be on the top, while the last page, say page number 20, shall be at the bottom of the correspondence portion. Sometimes, the latest PUC FR is kept on top for quick access by the senior officers. While doing so, it must be ensured that each such PUC and/or FRS is page numbered and referenced and docketed. After action thereon is decided, these PUC and/or FRs along with copy of the outgoing communication, if any, must be transferred to the bottom of the correspondence portion to ensure chronological sequence. Both the backquote notes portion and the backquote correspondence portion are placed in a single file cover. Left end of tag in the note portion will be tagged onto the left side of the file cover and right end of the tag will remain as such i.e. untagged. In the case of correspondence portion, right side of the tag will be tagged onto the right side of the same file cover and left side of the tag will remain as such i.e. untagged. 42. Earlier communications referred to as the receipt R or the issue I will be indicated in red ink by giving the position of these references on the file. If a file is bulky, separate file covers may be maintained for keeping appendix to notes and appendix to correspondence. For instance, a 50-page report is received with a demi-official letter as an enclosure. The D.O. letter is filed on the correspondence portion and the report is to be kept in appendix to correspondence portion. An indication is given in the D.O. letter that the report is kept in the appendix to correspondence portion. Similarly, on the first page of the report the details of the D.O. letter and its page reference will be given along with reference to the page number in the correspondence portion. Routine receipts and issues e.g., reminders, acknowledgements and routine notes will not be allowed to clutter the file. They will be placed below the file in a separate cover and destroyed when they have served their purpose, unless these have an audit or legal necessity, in which case they are to be filed chronologically in the correspondence portion. If the file is not bulky, appendix to notes and appendix to correspondence may be kept along with the respective note portion or the correspondence portion respectively of the main file. To facilitate easy handling of file, when the notes plus the backquote correspondence portion of a file become bulky, say exceed 150 to 200 pages, it will be stitched and marked backquote volume 1, e.g. 11011 to 2019 ist volume I. Further papers on the subject will be added to the new volume of the same file, which will be marked backquote volume 2, e.g. 11011 to 2019 ist volume 2 and so on. In volume 2 and subsequent volumes of the same file, page numbering in notes portion and correspondence portion is to be made in continuity of the last page number in note portion correspondence portion of the earlier volume. Box A. 6.3. In a file, all electronic receipts including scanned copy of PUC and FRs are attached or uploaded to a file. For electronic files the need for creating a new volume does not arise. Box 6.1. Arrangement of papers in a file. How are papers to be arranged in a file? The papers in a case will be arranged in the following order from top downwards. 1. Acts, rules, instructions or reference books. 2. Notes portion of the current file ending with the note for consideration. 43. 3. Draft for approval, if any. 4. Correspondence portion of the current file ending with the latest receipt or issue or running summary of facts, as the case may be. 5. Appendix to notes and correspondence, if required to approve the proposal. Else they may be kept in safe custody by the dealing officer. 6. Standing guard file, precedent book or reference folder, if any. 7. Other papers, if any, referred to, e.g., extracts of notes or correspondence from other files, copies of orders, resolutions, gazettes, arranged in chronological order, the latest being placed on the top. These too are be page numbered and to be filed in the correspondence portion. 8. Recorded files, if any, arranged in chronological order, the latest being placed on the top. And 9. Routine notes and papers arranged in chronological order and placed in a separate cover. Box A. 6.4. In a file, papers are arranged in each part of the file is given in the box under para 6.1. There is no need for appendix to notes or appendix to correspondence in a file. 6.7. Referencing. Every page in each part of the file quiz. Notes, correspondence, appendix to notes, and appendix to correspondence is consecutively numbered in separate series in pen on the right top corner. Blank intervening pages, if any, are not numbered. Each item of correspondence in a file, whether receipt R or issue I, is assigned number docketing, which will be displayed prominently in red ink at the top middle of its first page. The paper under consideration on a file is flagged ""PUC", and the latest fresh receipt noted upon, as ""FR". If there are more than one ""FR", they are flagged separately as ""FRI", ""FR2", and so on. Similarly, there could be more than one PUC in a file. While flagging ""PUC", or ""FR", the relevant page numbers will be invariably quoted in the margin. Other papers in a current file are referred to in the notes could be flagged as flag A, B, etc. Even in the current file. However, the relevant page numbers must be given in the margin for future reference, after the flags are removed. IV recorded files and other papers put up with the current file are flagged with alphabetical slips for quick identification. Only one alphabetical slip will be attached to a recorded file or compilation. If two or more papers contained in the same file or compilation are to be referred to, they should be identified by 44. The relevant page numbers in addition to the alphabetical slip, e.g. C, 23N, C, 17C, C, 57C, and so on. To facilitate the identification of references to papers contained in other files after the removal of slips, the number of the file referred to will be quoted invariably in the body of the note, and the relevant page numbers, together with the alphabetical slip attached thereto, will be indicated on the margin. Similarly, the number and date of orders, notifications and the resolutions, and, in the case of acts, rules and regulations, their brief title together with the number of the relevant section, rule, paragraph or clause, referred to will be quoted in the body of the notes, while the alphabetical slips used, will be indicated on the margin. However, rules or other compilations referred to in a case need not be put up if copies thereof are expected to be available with the officers to whom the case is being submitted. The fact of such compilations not having been put up will be indicated in the margin of the notes in pencil as "not put up". Flag will be pinned or stuck neatly on the backside of the paper sought to be flagged. When a number of papers put up in a case are to be flagged, the slips will be spread over the entire width of the file so that every slip is easily visible. An illustration of referencing in the notes portions and in the correspondence portion is at Appendix 6.5 and 6.6 respectively. 6.8. Docketing. Docketing means making of entries in the notes portion of a file about the serial number assigned to each item of correspondence, whether receipt or issue, for its identification. After docketing, if the branch officer or any higher officer has made any remark on the receipt, it is reproduced before recording the note. An illustration of docketing is at Appendix 6.5 and 6.6. Box A. 6.5. 1. In a file, the system automatically numbers the A pages in the notes and the correspondence portions in separate series. Thus, page numbers are given automatically by the system. 2. The system facilitates marking a receipt in correspondence as PUC# or FR#. However, once a PUC or FR number is assigned, it cannot be changed. Therefore, each new PUC or FR will be assigned a fresh number. In a file, there is no need to flag correspondence as PUC/FR, as merely giving reference to the page number would suffice to track that reference. 45. 3. Docketing in a file is done in two ways. A. There is a provision for the minister, senior officer, to record his comments on the receipt in the remarks field. This process is done before adding the receipt in the file. And B. It is reproduced by typing the remarks given by the minister or senior officers on the notes portion and hyperlinking the relevant correspondence page number. However, the system does not assign a serial number for docketing, as is done in the manual system. 6.9. Linking of files. If the issues raised in two or more current files are so interconnected that they must be dealt with together simultaneously, the relevant files will be linked in the manner indicated in sub-para E below. Such linking may also be resorted to if a paper on one current file is required for reference in dealing with another current file, unless a copy of the paper can be conveniently placed on the first file. Attaching a file is different from linking files. Linked files are files where decision is required, while an attached file is a file which is attached only for reference purposes. The linked files are to be stacked one above the other. The linked files are to be displayed by placing a slip on the flap on the file board as under. Box 6.2, specimen of slip to be attached on file board flap while linking files. Linked files, number 11011-5-2016's policy number 11011-6-2010's policy. 4. On return of the file after completion of action, the linked and the attached files will be immediately delinked after taking relevant extracts and placing the extracts in linked files. Box A. 6.6. Procedure exists for linking and attaching of files in the file. Only active files are available for linking, attaching. The files to be linked or attached must be available in the user's account. 6.10. Part file. If the main file on a subject is not likely to be available for some time and it is necessary to process a fresh receipt or a note without waiting for its return, a part file may be opened to deal with it. This device may also be resorted to where it is desired to consult simultaneously two or more sections or officers. 46. A part file will normally consist of A. Receipt dealt with, and B. Notes relating thereto. Where two or more part files are opened, each will be identified by a distinct number, e.g., No. A-11011 halves 2018 FIN PF1, No. A-11011 halves 2018 FIN PF2, and so on. A part file shall be merged with the main file by the dealing officer immediately when the main file and the part file are returned to the section, after giving fresh referencing. Box A. 6.7. In a file, the part file is opened against a main file by any user if he/she is in the channel of submission of that file. Unlike the merger of physical files, in a file, part file is attached as separate entity and subsequently the respective part files are closed. 6.11. Transfer, reconstruction and renumbering of files. Whenever work is transferred from one department section to another, the former will promptly transfer all the related records including files, both current and closed, to the latter. In case of transfer of files from one department to the other, a list will be prepared and approval of head of department will be taken. The department section taking over the records will not reclassify or renumber the closed files transferred to it. In the case of current files, the endeavor should be to close them at the earliest possible stage and to open new files according to the department's section's own scheme of classification for dealing with the matter further. A file will be reconstructed if it is misplaced. The file number in the subject will be obtained from the file register and the copies of correspondence will be sought from the corresponding department. On receipt of all such papers, they will be arranged in chronological order on the file and a self-contained note will be prepared on the basis of the copies of correspondence, and placed on the notes portion of the reconstructed file. Box A. 6.8. Similar transfer of files can take place in a file by the file administrator. 47. 6.12. Movement of files and other papers. Movement of files will be entered in the File Movement Register, Appendix 6.4. When current files are linked as per Para 6.9, the movement of the linked files will be marked in the space allotted in the File Movement Register for the file with which these are linked and also individually in the space allotted in the File Movement Register for each of the linked files. When recorded files are put up with a file, the movement of the recorded files will be marked in the space allotted in the File Movement Register for the file with which these are put up. Movement of files received from other departments, sections and other receipts which have not been brought onto a file in the receiving section will be noted in the backquote remarks column of the section register. No current file will be issued to other sections except against written requisition and after marking its movement in the File Movement Register. Files and other papers marked by the Undersecretary to other officers, sections or departments will be routed through the section for noting their movement. When the files are handed over personally by the Undersecretary to other officers, he will inform the section officer accordingly who will ensure that the movement of such files is marked in the File Movement Register. The personal staff of officers of the rank of Deputy Secretary and above will maintain the movement of papers received by their officers in the respective personal section register Appendix 5.1. Movement of any file handed over personally to a higher officer or to the minister will similarly be noted by the personal staff. Papers files marked by them to other departments, however, will be routed through the section concerned, for noting their movements in the file movement register or section register is appropriate. Box A. 6.9. In case of electronic file or receipt, its movement is recorded in the system automatically, as and when a user sends it to another. However, when a physical receipt or file is sent using a file, the user has to make sure that the physical receipt or file is actually sent along with a movement entry made in the system. The receiver has to acknowledge the receiving of the receipt or the file in the system as well. 48. 6.13. Urgency grading. I. The urgency grading advised are immediate, priority, and top priority. The label immediate will be used only in cases requiring prompt attention. Amongst the rest, the priority label will be used for cases which merit disposal in precedence to others of ordinary nature. Top priority will be applied in extremely urgent cases. E. Where Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha questions, motions, bills are processed, separate specific file cover shall be used. Hence, it will not be necessary to use any other urgency grading. E. The grading of urgency assigned to a case will be reviewed by all concerned at different stages of its progress and where necessary, revised. This is particularly important for cases proposed to be referred to other departments. Box A. 6.10. In a file, immediate priority and top priority are the urgency grading. These urgency grading are given by the user at the time of sending the file receipt. Label VIP is used for the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha matters. The grading of urgency assigned to a case will be reviewed by all concerned at different stages of its progress and where necessary, revised. This is particularly important for cases proposed to be referred to other departments. 49. Appendix -6.1. Para 6.2. Essentials of a functional file index and an identifying file numbering system. 1. Basic heads identify and list basic functions of the department. These may be called basic or group heads, e.g., labor relations, foreigners, fertilizer. 2. Primary heads list under each function, i.e., basic group heads, its main activities, identifying them by appropriate subject headings called primary heads. 3. Secondary heads divide each primary head into sub-subjects or aspects called secondary heads. 4. Tertiary heads, where necessary, break down each secondary head into its various known factors called tertiary heads. 5. Further subdivisions. In this way, the process of breaking down the function could be extended to several descending, consecutive echelons according to needs. 6. Examples of basic, primary, secondary and tertiary heads are in annexure to appendix. 7. Rational sequence. In drawing up lists of basic, primary, secondary and tertiary heads and their further subdivisions, where necessary, some rational sequence in arranging the heads in the same list may be followed. Such an arrangement may reflect organic or procedural relationship among the different heads. To adopt any of the following orders or combination thereof is convenient. A stepwise process in alphabetical order, particularly when representing regions, producers, commodities, clients, organizations or institutions. Descending levels of importance of heads. Diminishing frequency of occurrence of different events identified by suitable heads. The first two places in the list of secondary heads under each subject may be uniformly reserved for general and policy matters. Entries in each list of standardized heads viz. Under basic heads, primary heads, secondary heads, tertiary heads and so on may be arranged in alphabetical order, if any other type of sequence has not been followed. 8. Identification of basic heads. If the number of basic heads be large, each may be identified by a group of 2 to 3 letters phonetically selected. If it be small, not exceeding 10, they may be identified by assigning consecutive Roman numerals to them. 50. For example, in the field of agriculture, the basic heads, fertilizer, seeds, plant protection, etc. could be symbolized by FERT, SD, ppn, etc. respectively. 9. Identification of primary heads. Next, the primary heads will each be identified by a group of 2-digit Arabic numerals beginning with 11 and continuing in consecutive order up to 99. 10. Identification of secondary and tertiary divisions. Similarly, each secondary head, as also each tertiary head, will be identified by a group of 2-digit Arabic numerals beginning with 11 and going up to 99. 11. Deviations. If the subjects be simple relating to a fresh or recent activity, they may well be covered by one list of primary heads alone or by a two-level list of primary heads and secondary heads. Each primary heads or secondary head could then be identified as in 8 and 9 above. Progressive increase in levels develops as the number of functions increases, so also when the number of activities under each function and the number of operations under each activity increase. 12. Exception. If a paper requiring filing is such as apparently does not relate to any of the approved lists, the following questions may be relevant. I. Whether it can come under any factor heading, i.e. a tertiary heading is related to a secondary heading. E. Whether it seems allied to a secondary heading is related to a primary heading. And if not, E. Whether it could be brought under an additional heading placed at appropriate point in the list of primary headings. If nothing suggests, it may be temporarily placed in the list of primary headings as the last item. 13. File code. The file may then be assigned an alphanumeric code symbol composed in the following sequence. I. A single letter or a group of 2 to 3 letters, or a Roman numerical representing the basic head followed by a hyphen as the separator. E. A 2-digit group of Arabic numerals representing primary head followed by 0 as the separator. E. A 2-digit group of Arabic numerals identifying the secondary head followed by a slant stroke as the separator. 51. IV. Serial number of the file opened during the year under the secondary head, followed by a slant stroke as the separator. V. A 2-digit number representing the year, followed by a hyphen as the separator. V. A group of abbreviating letters representing the section. If the file opened relates to a standardized tertiary head, a 2-digit Arabic numeral identifying it, enclosed in brackets, may be inserted before the serial number mentioned in IV above in the slant stroke preceding it. Example, 1A file opened by Labor Relations I section during 2019 relating to a strike in colliery, X, may have IV 13024/96 LRI as the file code where IV represents the functions group, labor relations. 13. The primary head, strikes 0, the separator 24, the secondary head, coal mines 5, the serial number of the file opened during the year under the secondary head, coal mines, to describe the colliery involved, 2019, the year of opening the file in, LRI, the section concerned. Example, 2A file opened by Foreigners 2 section to examine an application of Mr. Ferrari, a French national, to visit India may bear the coded number F17012 2019 fee where F represents the group head, Foreigners 17, the primary head visa endorsement, 0 feed the separator, 12, the secondary head, French 2, the serial number of the file opened during the year under that head, 2019, the year of opening the file, and fee, the concerned section. Similarly, in fertilizer IV section, file relating to fertilizer imports could carry the code FRT-19012/2019 FIV here. FRT would denote the basic head, fertilizers, and the other symbols would be as explained in the above two examples. 14. File title. A complete title of the file will normally consist of the appropriate standardized heads from the basic head downwards, each separated by a hyphen followed by a very brief content to describe the particular question, issue, event, person, thing, place, etc. involved. The basic head, however, need not form part of the title when a. The total number of such heads is small and from their identifying Roman numerals, they can easily be known. Or B. The basic head is identified by a letter or a group of letters phonetically selected. 52. Annexure to Appendix 6.1. Examples of basic, primary, secondary and tertiary heads: basic head, primary head, secondary head, tertiary head. Labor relations: strikes, lockouts, adjudication of disputes, coal mines, oil fields, banking, Foreigners Acts and statutory rules, visa endorsement, special permits, extension of stay, Passport Entry into India Act rules, Registration of Foreigners Acts rules, Foreigners Act rules, Citizenship Act rules, fertilizer imports, planning, statistics, control, promotion, shipment, foreign exchange, policy, UK credit, barter, link deals, charter. For opening files relating to establishment, finance, budget and accounts, office supplies and services and other housekeeping jobs common to all departments, the standardized functional file index including its file numbering system, issued by the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances will be followed. Web links 53. Appendix 6.2. Para 6.2. Assigning file numbers under the file numbering system based on subject classification. Figure 6.1. Specimen of a file number under file numbering system based on subject classification. Conventional file number system or file number on subject classification. 1. Each section will maintain approved lists of a. Standard heads, i.e. main subject headings assigned to the section, and b. Subheads, i.e. aspects of the main subject headings. 2. The standard heads will bear consecutive serial numbers and will be pasted on the first page of the file register. No such numbers, however, will be allotted to subheads at this stage. Code for each such subheads is allotted as and when the need arises to open such subheads. A specimen of standard heads of a section is at Appendix 6.7. 3. The pages allotted to registers are also indicated against each specimen of such standard head is at Appendix 6.7. However, the code number assigned to the subject head, the standard heads in this file numbering system, will vary from section to section even within a department. 108208 ist. Standard subject head. Serial number of the file opened under the standard subject head during the year. Year of opening of the file. Ownership of the file 54. 4. The lists of standard heads and subheads will be reviewed at the beginning of each year and revised,